beautiful. Whoa! I didn't see you there. How are you? I'm Keyman, Chicago. I've been in the locksmithing industry for over 10 years now, and I've made a lot of car keys. I've met a lot of interesting people, and I've been through a lot of interesting situations. And we have finally decided to share my world with you guys. So make sure you subscribe, and don't skip this channel because there's going to be a lot of cool stuff coming out. So keep watching. So it seems like I've been catching big fish all day. We just found the original founder of
International Key Supply.
International Key Supply. His name is Sean. With every drink, it's getting easier and easier to just talk normally. So, Sean, please tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into the industry, and what is your motivation behind these events?
Yeah, sure. So, I fell into this industry. I've always been a car guy, always been an automotive guy. I'm kind of obsessed with cars. It's a little bit of a problem. Back in 2010, I probably started in the automotive parts industry in like 2008, and I was doing wholesale sales for a car audio distributor. So we sold remote starts, we sold alarms, we sold, butt connectors, zip ties, all that 12-volt accessories. And I had been doing that for about 4 years, maybe 5 years, and I had a client, a customer. The customer was bigger than us as a dealer than we were as a distributor, but I had been calling on the same customer for 4 years. And we always had a good conversation. They would buy a little bit, they'd buy some cable ties, they'd buy some butt connectors, and these are all things that cost less than a penny, right? So you'd sell 100 pack of cable ties for like $1.50, right? So I had been calling on this guy for a long time. We had great conversations on the phone, but he would only buy little bits from me. And I knew he could buy so much more. So finally one day I'm sitting in this little office I had that was at the second distributor I was working at. It was literally like a closet with a desk in it. And I call this guy and we're talking and I'm like, man, I've been talking to you for 4 years. We have a great conversation. We talk for a while. You barely order anything from me. I literally just said like, what can I sell you that you'll buy from me, right? And he's just like, this is 2010. 480-bit is a thing at this point, new thing. He goes, we buy these Ford keys from this company and we don't really like dealing with them, right? And at the time I knew this company because they supplied the car audio world a lot for transponder keys. So I was like, all right, I asked him what he paid. I had been doing some, I'd just been getting creative with this company that I was working for, doing some sourcing in China and doing some marketing stuff and just trying to, piece it together essentially. And at the time, Alibaba was still a secret back then, right? Like not everyone knew about Alibaba, right? So I look up, on Alibaba that night, like Ford 80-bit key. I find a bunch of suppliers, I send a bunch of messages, I get a bunch of quotes. I think I got a quote for like $3.80 at the time, $3.80. And then I start searching around the internet and I see them on eBay for like $15, $16. So I'm like, okay, what does it cost to ship? At the time, it was like I want to say it was $1.68. Okay, what does a mailer cost? 24 cents or something like that, a 4x6 mailer. There's money there, right? So at the time, I was not in good financial shape. I had a credit card with a $300 limit. I had a horrible credit score, but I used that credit card and I bought like $100 worth of transponder keys. Started selling them on eBay. What happened? So I would sell them on eBay. I'd come home from work, and at day one or day two, it'd be like 1 order, 2 orders, 3 orders, and I'd come home from work at 6 o'clock. I'd ship the orders for the day in my apartment, package them up, drop them off at the post office, right? And I did that for a few months, and I got like a B111 was another one, right? I got. I'm trying to think what my third key was. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I started branching out a little bit, getting a couple more keys. And I noticed that locksmiths were buying from me on eBay. So it'd say so-and-so's lock shop or whatever. And at the time, eBay would give you all the contact information, email address, phone number, all of it. They don't really do that anymore. And since I was still doing the B2B sales and I was comfortable making a cold call, I would call up the locksmith and say like, hey, I saw you order from me on eBay. My name's Sean. Like, I can give you a better price if you order from me directly. If you buy 10, well, 5, whatever. So I started doing that. It got to the point where, okay, I was shipping 50 orders a night when I would come home from work, 60 orders a night, 100 orders a night on eBay. And then also like these guys would text me and I would send them, at the time I had like 5 SKUs, like 5 different parts, right? And I would look on eBay, okay, which one, eBay would tell you how many items sold also. So I'd say, okay, if I search transponder key, what's the next one that has the most sales, right? Okay, that's my next one. Can I make money on this? It just kind of,
brick by brick,
like it just kind of grew from there. Certainly it was also like the timing, you couldn't get any better at that point. Like I lucked into the timing of it, and that transponder keys were starting to become a thing, and remote keys and remotes. So that's why you find a lot of my past competitors, we all started around the same time.
Were there any dedicated key suppliers at that time yet?
There was, so at some point when I was getting when I was starting to do a decent amount on eBay, at the time what felt like a decent amount, I want to say that I think American Key Supply was around at that point. Like they were also very new. I think they started around at the same time, but they started immediately in wholesale, where I started more in direct to consumer. I want to say I stumbled across HL Flake, but I was more focused on eBay a little bit. So I didn't know what I didn't know, right? I knew that there was a thing here and that there were some suppliers, but I looked at their websites. I was like, most of these websites are garbage,
junk.
And I had been doing that with the company I was working at, where I was like, we didn't even have a website, and I was a tech forward guy. So I was like creating my own marketing material to send to the customers that I was cold calling, and I was having to just get creative. So I was like, in the locksmith industry at the time, it was a lot of legacy distributors, right? That they had like old school websites that weren't easy to find what you wanted. And I was like, man, there's an opportunity here if I just build a website that's like easy to use and modern. So that's just what I did, and it just kind of snowballed. I would get another SKU, and the funny thing is, that one customer that I called and said like, hey man, what can I sell you? I just had a phone call with them last week because they ended up getting into the locksmith trade from Car Audio also. And I had a conversation with the president, and I was like, man, it's been 20 years I've been dealing with you. He's like, yeah, it's pretty crazy, man. And I was like, yeah.
You still talk to each other?
I hadn't spoken to him for a few years. I was out of the industry for a couple of years also. But this customer, I don't know if I actually told him this, was the reason that I got into this business and just fell into it.
That's crazy. So you absolutely started with just 1 key, 2 keys, 3 keys to what is now, are you guys the biggest supplier of keys in the USA? Or at least one of them?
Biggest supplier of car keys and remotes, I would say that 100%. Metal keys, probably not. But if you talk about key fobs, has to be yes. The answer has to be
you ask any locksmith, everybody knows what Key Innovations is.
Yeah.
That's absolutely a crazy story. I cannot believe it. Usually, people, they grow into it. Either, they have dad who's in part of the business, or somehow they work their way up in the company itself. But you literally started with nothing and built it into what is now giving so much opportunity to so many people. And it is absolutely amazing what you do here. Yeah. So thank you so much for all your hard efforts, I guess.
Thank you. It's not just me. At some point, I started hiring people and had great people that worked for me.
So I'm guessing right now your credit card has a little bit higher limit than $300.
You have much higher limit than $300, yes.
That's
100%.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And you know what? Just off camera, we were talking about the whole Lishi thing. So Lishi is something that that revolutionized the whole entire locksmith industry. It is the lock picks that we use every day to pick the locks, decode them, and cut the keys from them. So you said you were one of the first 2 people in the USA that distributed them. Could you please tell us a story about that?
Yes. So at the time, now at this point, when getting to the Lishi story, at this point, I'm pretty deep into now, supplying locksmiths. I'm still, compared to how many SKUs we have now, I was much smaller then. But I was starting to make headway, right? I was starting to really have a lot of customers and some employees and a warehouse and all this stuff. And what I was trying to do was find brands that I could distribute that would legitimize us in the eyes of potential customers, right? Because we were kind of the new dog coming into town. We were very focused on aftermarket and coming out with a quality aftermarket, key and remotes, whereas everyone else was more focused on refurbishing OEM. So we were fighting kind of an uphill battle at that time because aftermarket was not accepted as a viable strategy, right? So I was trying to find brands. Lishi was one of them. Advanced Diagnostics was the other. the first one, maybe the second one actually, that if I got these brands and we go, oh, International Key Supply is actually selling Lishi, they're selling Advanced Diagnostics, they're selling Miracle Key Machines, they must be legitimate.
Legitimate, right.
Right? So I wanted to get Lishi, and I had been reaching out to them any way I could, but they weren't enormous as they are now. Like, they had one distributor, which now we're part of the same company. Their one distributor was Midwest Keyless, right? And we've obviously merged with them now. By the time Midwest Keyless was like, we're going after them, right? Like, we want to take their customers, right? So I had been reaching out to Lishi anyway I can, finding email addresses, sending emails, like,
To no avail?
whatever I could do, getting nowhere. And, probably years going by. So finally, because America at that point was like an afterthought for the locksmithing industry. All this stuff was happening first in Europe, and then it was coming over here. So I had been selling Miracle Key Machines. That was like one of the first things that kind of like took me to the next level. And I was talking with the management over there, and they were like, "Oh yeah, Lishi, Mr. Lee will probably be at this expo that's coming up in somewhere in England. I don't remember the town or the
Mr.
city."
Lee is the founder of Lishi Tools.
Yeah. So I'm like, screw it, I'm going to this trade show. So I book a flight to England. I'd never been there before. And I fly to England, do the whole thing, driving on the wrong side of the road, the whole thing. But the whole reason I went there was to see if I can run into, intentionally, Mr. Lee or someone that worked for him. So sure enough, I did. I ran into him and James, his kind of second in command. And, basically persuaded them, like, you need to put me on. And sure enough, after a bunch of time, I was the second distributor in the United States to have it, right? Then they opened it up to a bunch because the United States market really started kind of growing. But I just took the leap, like, I'm just gonna go where they're at, right? Like, go where the business is at. And, it worked out. I was the second distributor to have it. It got us a lot of business. It won us legitimacy in the eyes of potential customers. I can go out and say, hey, we're a original Lishi distributor. If you remember at that time, there was genuine Lishi, there was original Lishi, there was fake Lishis.
What's the difference between all of those three?
So genuine Lishi and original Lishi, from my understanding, and actually now that I remember, this is all like really foggy, it's years ago, but now that I'm talking about it, I remember we were selling genuine Lishi for a little bit because we couldn't get original Lishi. So from my understanding, genuine Lishi was like, hey, we're going to be your distributor for, they basically did the same thing, right? Before Lishi was a thing in Europe, the guys from genuine Lishi partnered with Mr. Lee in Asia, and they brought it to Europe. This is my understanding. So they were selling just Lishi. There was no two different things, there was Lishi. So they were distributing Lishi in Europe, which was the next biggest market. And from my understanding, at some point there was a relationship breakdown or something, and there was no patents on the Lishi side at that point. So genuine Lishi split off, and it was, I think the person that was basically the master distributor and then created genuine Lishi, and it was a competing tool. Again, this is as best as I can remember. I'm sure people could tell other
I just
stories.
thought there were fakes, knockoffs, and there was the legitimate. I guess
They would both argue that they were both legitimate, and there was like a business argument that made them split. I don't know what's true, what's not. I didn't have anything against genuine Lishi, but everyone wanted original Lishi. And we did our best selling genuine Lishi, and we did a good job with it. But original Lishi was going to take us to the next level. And then there were just the knockoffs that was just claiming to be Lishis and weren't. Right? So they, just a Chinese manufacturer that bought the original Lishi or any Lishi and then just literally copied it, printed it, and that was it, right? So, but similar to me going to England to find Mr. Lee, we have the camera here now, is like when we've also, I want to say we were one of the first distributors to put on our own trade show in the automotive locksmith industry. And when we did that, we did a lot of things wrong in the beginning. We made a lot of mistakes. We would put on classes and we didn't have good enough description, so then people would fly up from Florida expecting one thing, they would get another, and then they'd be pissed off.
It's inevitable, it's a learning curve.
It's a learning curve, right? We try and improve every single time. But what I tell the people that come to our events, like this one, is the classes are great, right? The classes are invaluable. Phenomenal, right? Especially if you got good teachers like we have now, good instructors. But the other thing that's just as valuable is networking with all the other people at the show. Because you just don't know what's going to happen. Sometimes opportunities like the one with Mr. Lishi, I mean, I kind of made that one happen, but going to other trade shows have presented other opportunities, right? You get out what you put in. So if you go to a trade show and you do your class and you don't talk to anyone, you're not going to get that much out of it, right? Like if you do your class, you go out to dinner by yourself, and then you leave, it might have been worth it, but you're not going to get as much out of it as if, like for instance, you right now, right, pulled me aside, hey, can we do an interview? Sure, why not, right? Like, because I was talking with someone, they introduced us, and now we're doing this interview. Because you're out there putting yourself in front of people, right?
Yeah, just so we talked before, everybody that you've talked to out of my group is I've met them at your events, and it wouldn't have been possible without these events. And with every year, I get to introduce to more and more people.
Yeah.
And even let's say at some point, if I outgrow the classes, I get to meet instructors, I get to meet new people, and it's all about building those relationships, meeting like-minded people. And that's the most important part of the show, I think it is. I actually, I didn't know if I was going to get anything out of the class, but I'm like, I want to go there just first of all to see my boys and to meet new potential, friends.
I have one that happened today. I was here, and I don't want to say it on camera because it's kind of a thing we're working on for our website. Okay. Something I've been working on for the longest time, and I have a conversation with somebody, and they tell me this thing, and it just unlocks something completely new for us. And he's like, yeah, I've been doing this for years. But just because I was having a conversation, right? I was here, and we were just BSing, and this fact came out that this person knew.
And it opened up a door.
And it opened up a door.
I was just talking to Joe. I pulled him to the side. I'm like, hey, Joe, can we do an interview with you? He said yes. And after the interview, he gave me one of his cards and said, hey, because we're from the same city, we're in Chicago. I pick up from the Vernon Hills location. He said, hey, if you're ever around, give me a call. Maybe we can go inside. I'll show you the building. And maybe you can bring your guy with you, and we'll show you what it's like. I'm like, I look at my producer. I'm like, hey, listen, do you know what kind of door just got open for us? You know what I mean? So it's just moments like that. I mean, without being here, I mean, what would I do? Right. I wouldn't have these opportunities. It's all about the opportunities and what you make out of them. There's opportunities everywhere as long as you're willing to grab them. It's
both. You got to grab the opportunities that present themselves, and then put yourself in places where opportunities present themselves. Right? There's both. Like, because sometimes I hear people saying, "Oh, like you got lucky because of this," but it's like, no, like I heard this thing, and a light bulb went off, and then I took the opportunity. Or like in the Lishi thing, I flew to England and made the opportunity.
Because you were determined.
Right? Maybe it would have failed and he wasn't there, but like I probably would have made some other connection.
But if you wouldn't have went there to begin with, that wouldn't have happened regardless.
Wouldn't have happened.
So it's all about taking chances, taking risks.
Taking chances, calculated risks, right? You want to be calculated. You want to just throw money out like willy-nilly, but like if you have a thesis, an idea that like, hey, if I do this,
there's
and
a
I
good
put the effort in,
that this would happen.
Exactly. So, there's taking opportunities and making opportunities. And you can do both. And a lot of people don't do either, right? Like that's the big thing. You see a lot of people complaining like, oh, like life is hard for me. And life is hard for a lot of people. Yeah. But a lot of people pass up opportunities because, and I don't blame them, they're too afraid to take them.
It's all about fear.
Fear. And listen, like, would I have done the same thing if I had 3 kids at the time? Who knows? I would like to think yes. At the time, I didn't have kids. I had nothing to lose. I only had to gain. So it's easy for me to say back then. But I'm still just an opportunistic person. When I hear things, it's an opportunity. I want to take advantage of it. And there's other people that don't, and that's fine. But if you're a business owner, owning a business is maximizing every opportunity and minimizing the amount of fires you got to put out. Right? That's owning a business. How quickly can I put out the fires, and how quickly can I find a new opportunity, right?
Right. Sean, thank you so much for putting up with that period of time when you had $300 in your credit card. Without you, none of this would be possible. Thank you so much, and thank you for this interview.
Too much, but I appreciate it. Thank you.
Wow, so did you hear that? So it turns out you do not need a small loan of $1 million to start a future multi-million-dollar company. A credit card with just $300 on it is enough. Now, Sean was one of a few interesting people we met at this Dallas Locksmith Convention earlier this year, and we're planning on posting a lot more interesting interviews and situations and life stories about locksmithing in the industry. So we really appreciate you staying here with us and watching. I got to get back to this 1979 Mercedes lock, which is kind of killing me right now. So I'm Keyman. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.